Thrall walked through the corridors of Kepler 7 station with the careful steps of a diplomat who had learned to show respect to all species. His blue skin reflected the cold light of the station, and his 3 eyes scanned everything around him. He had been to the Galactic Council chambers many times, but today felt different. The air seemed heavy with tension. News had spread that humanity, the young species from Earth, had become a problem that needed to be discussed. He entered the grand chamber where the council met. The room was circular and massive, with seats arranged in a great semicircle. Each species had its place. The Krillians sat in the upper seats, their gray skin and long fingers making them look like the powerful beings they believed themselves to be. Below them were the Veeth, Thrall's own people, known for their wisdom and careful thinking. The Zorath were there too, their red skin and military uniforms making them look ready for battle. Thrall took his observer seat and waited. The meeting was about to begin. A human entered from the human delegation doors. His name was Captain Nathan Rogers. He wore a simple dark blue uniform with the symbol of humanity on his chest. He was tall, with brown hair and a face that showed no fear, though Thrall could see the weight of responsibility in his eyes. With him was Ambassador Lisa Grant, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm way of speaking. The council leader, a Krillian named Zaxxon, began the meeting. His voice was cold and official. We gathered to discuss the human expansion into the Ardor Prime sector. The Zorath Empire has brought charges that humans have invaded their territory and harmed their interests. The humans claim they were simply establishing colonies on empty worlds. We must decide what to do about this conflict. Thrall leaned forward in his seat. He had read the reports, but hearing it in the council chamber made it real. A Zorath commander stood up. His name was Keth, and he was known to be tough and without mercy. His voice was loud and angry. The humans are primitive colonizers. They use old technology and weak weapons. They do not belong among the great powers. We have 20 ships. They have 3. We will crush them in 3 weeks, and this problem will be solved. The council should not even be discussing this. We should let us handle it. The council members seemed to agree. Thrall could see it in their faces. They believed the humans were weak. They believed the Zorath would win easily. No one seemed worried. Then Captain Rogers stood up. His voice was not loud, but it was clear. Everyone listened. Members of the council, I am Nathan Rogers. I speak for humanity. We did not come to Ardor Prime to fight. We came to build homes and raise families. The Zorath were not using those worlds. They were empty. We checked the records. But when we arrived, the Zorath decided they wanted those worlds. They demanded we leave. We refused to abandon our people. He paused. His eyes moved across the council, looking at each member. You see us as weak because we have fewer ships. You see us as primitive because our technology is not as advanced as yours. But you are making a mistake. The Zorath are making a bigger mistake. Humans do not fight like you do. We do not fight for gain. We fight to protect what matters. We fight because we have no choice. And when we fight, we do not stop until victory is achieved or we are all dead. The Zorath should know this before they attack. The chamber went silent. Some council members looked uncomfortable. Others looked angry. Thrall felt something shift inside his chest. The human's words were true, but they were also a threat. The human was saying that the Zorath would not have an easy win. A Veeth council member named Shizis spoke next. He was old and wise. Captain Rogers, your words are bold. But strength is not just about will. Strength is about weapons and ships and technology. The Zorath have all of these things in greater numbers. How can you hope to win? Nathan Rogers looked directly at Shizis. We will find a way. Humans always do. Lisa Grant added her voice then. We are asking the Council to order the Zorath to stop their attack. We are asking for official recognition of our colonies on Ardor Prime. We are not asking for help. We are asking for justice. We will handle the Zorath ourselves." The council members began to argue among themselves. Some thought the humans were brave but stupid. Some thought they were lying. Some thought it did not matter what humans said because the Zorath were stronger. In the end, the vote was decided. The council would not send military help to the humans. They would not order the Zorath to stop. Instead, they said both sides should try to make peace. But everyone in the room knew what that really meant. The Zorath would attack. The humans would lose. And the humans would learn what it meant to be weak in the galaxy. Thrall watched as Nathan Rogers and Lisa Grant left the chamber. They did not look defeated. They looked like people who had already decided something important long before they walked into the council room. There was no fear in their eyes. There was only determination. As Thrall watched them leave, he felt a question form in his mind. A question he could not ignore. What if the human was right? What if humans fought differently than other species? What if their will to protect what mattered was stronger than any weapon? Thrall decided then that he would watch what happened next. He would travel to Ardor Prime and see for himself. He would learn the truth about these young humans from Earth. Maybe they were simply brave and foolish. Maybe they were something more. He did not yet know that this decision would change everything he believed about strength and courage, and what it truly meant to be fearsome. Thrall stepped off the transport shuttle and felt the gravity of Ardor Prime pull at him. The planet was beautiful. Red and gold dust covered the ground, and the sky was a shade of purple that reminded him of nothing in his home world. But this beauty was now a battlefield. Captain Nathan Rogers stood waiting for him at the colony base entrance. He was in a military uniform now, worn and marked by dust. He saluted the Veith diplomat and smiled, though it was a tired smile. "Observer Thrall, welcome to Ardor Prime. I trust you had a good journey," Rogers said. "I came to see for myself what humans do when faced with overwhelming odds," Thrall replied. "Then you came at the right time. The Zorath will be here in 2 weeks. Come, I will show you our defenses." Rogers led him through the colony. Thrall expected to see fear and chaos. Instead, he found order and purpose. Humans worked everywhere. Some were building walls from salvaged metal. Some were digging trenches. Others were working on ships, welding and cutting metal with precise focus. A woman approached them. She was tall with gray eyes and efficient movements. Her name was Dr. Patricia Wells, and she was the base commander. "Captain, we have finished the power redistribution. The civilian ships are ready for conversion," she said. Rogers nodded. "And the population?" "All children and elderly are being moved to the underground bunkers. The rest are being trained for emergency evacuation. Everyone knows their role." Thrall listened carefully. This was not panic. This was preparation. Over the next week, Thrall watched the humans work. They did not have advanced weapons like the Zorath, so they created new weapons from what they had. They took cargo ships and loaded them with explosive materials. They turned asteroids into mines by placing charges on them. They built sensor networks that covered every approach to the planet. A young human pilot named Marcus Hayes found Thrall watching the work one day. "You must think we are crazy," Marcus said. "The Zorath have weapons we cannot match." "I think you are clever," Thrall replied. "But cleverness does not stop powerful weapons." Marcus smiled. "Maybe not, but it makes the fight interesting." Then the Zorath came. Thrall watched from the command center as the red ships appeared on the sensor screens. There were 20 of them, just as Keth had said. They were massive and powerful. Against them were the human ships, small and slow. Rogers stood at the center of the room. His face was calm. He gave orders in a clear voice. All ships, scatter formation Delta. Asteroids, activate Phase 1. Civilian evacuation, proceed now. What happened next was like nothing Thrall had ever seen. The Zorath ships attacked, firing beams of pure energy that melted metal and destroyed buildings. Humans died. The colony's outer wall was breached in minutes. But the humans did not retreat. Instead, they moved forward with their plan. Marcus Hayes piloted a damaged transport toward the Zorath fleet. He was carrying the last civilians from the southern colony section. The Zorath fired at his ship. Alarms screamed in the cabin. One engine exploded. Flames filled the cargo hold. Marcus guided the ship toward the safety of the underground caverns, completing his evacuation with one hand on the control stick and one hand holding back the fire with a metal barrier. The moment the last civilian stepped into the bunker, he pushed the transport upward and toward the largest Zorath battleship. Thrall watched the sensor screen. He understood what Marcus was about to do. The transport, moving on a ship's power cell that was burning from overload, struck the Zorath battleship's weapon system. The explosion was tremendous. The Zorath ship shuddered and tilted. Its weapons went silent. Marcus Hayes did not survive the impact. Rogers did not pause. He gave new orders. More human ships moved forward, drawing the Zorath fire to where the asteroid mines had been placed. The mines detonated. Another Zorath ship was damaged. Then another. The battle lasted 6 hours. In the end, the Zorath fleet had lost 5 ships and had another 4 damaged beyond immediate repair. The Zorath commander ordered a retreat. Thrall stood in silence as the red ships disappeared from the sensors. Rogers sat down heavily in his command chair. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were wet with tears. But his voice was steady. Medical teams to Sector 7. Recovery teams, begin search and rescue for survivors. We did it. We held. As the humans worked to recover from the battle, Thrall moved through the colony. He saw the destruction. He saw the death. But he also saw something else. He saw humans helping each other. He saw humans crying for their fallen friends, then immediately moving to help the next person in need. He found Rogers standing in the destruction of the southern section. The captain was looking at a picture that had survived the attack. It showed a young human girl with dark hair and a bright smile. "That is Sophia," Rogers said. "She was 7 years old. Her parents were killed in the attack. Will the child survive?" Thrall asked. Rogers turned to look at him. In the captain's eyes, Thrall saw something he had not expected to find. He saw love. He saw a man willing to make a promise to a child who was not his own. "Yes," Rogers said firmly. "I will make sure she survives. All the children will survive. That is what we fight for. That is why we will never stop fighting." Thrall finally understood. The humans were not fearless. They had lost friends and homes. They were wounded and tired. But they would fight again if they had to, because they had something to protect that mattered more than their own safety. This was what the Zorath did not understand. This was what the Galactic Council had missed. The humans did not fight to win. They fought because they had no choice. And when you fight because you have no choice, you become something the galaxy had never faced before. You become unstoppable. The Galactic Council chamber was different this time. Thrall could feel it the moment he walked in. The air that had seemed cold before now seemed charged with uncertainty. The council members were not sitting with the confidence they had shown before. Thrall's message had reached them, and it had created doubt. The Zorath War Master Keth stood before the council. His red skin looked darker, almost purple with anger. He was not wearing his ceremonial armor anymore. He wore the armor of active military command. Behind him were images of the Zorath fleet that had been damaged at Ardor Prime. 4 ships destroyed. 3 more severely damaged. Half his attack force gone. The humans are not finished, Kath said loudly. They are repairing their defenses. They are training more soldiers. They are building more weapons. We must attack again immediately, with twice the force we sent before. We must crush them while they are still weak. If we wait, they will become stronger. The longer we delay, the more dangerous they become. The council leader, Zaxxon, looked uncomfortable. Your concerns are noted, War Master Keth, but the situation has become more complex. Observer Thrall has returned from Ardor Prime with new information. He will now address the council. Thrall stood. His 3 eyes looked across the council members. He saw fear in some of them. Fear of the unknown. Fear that they had misjudged. I went to Ardor Prime to observe human military strength, Thrall began. What I found was not what I expected. Yes, humans have primitive technology. Yes, they have fewer ships. Yes, by conventional measures they should have been defeated easily. But humans do not fight by conventional measures. Keth made a sound of anger. The humans sent a pilot to his death in a worthless sacrifice. Was it worthless? Thrall asked. Marcus Hayes died protecting children. His sacrifice allowed those children to live. His sacrifice also damaged your flagship and killed 60 of your soldiers. From a military perspective, one pilot's death for 60 soldiers is not worthless. From a human perspective, those children are infinitely valuable. The human does not calculate value the way you do. This is philosophy, not military strategy, Keth said. It does not matter why humans fight. What matters is that we can destroy them. Perhaps, Thrall said. But I have a question for the council. What if you cannot destroy them? What if the more you attack, the more determined they become? What if human willingness to sacrifice everything is stronger than Zorath weapons? The council members looked at each other. Jesus, the old Veeth, leaned forward. Observer Thrall, explain more clearly what you are saying. Thrall had prepared for this question. I am saying that humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not fight for conquest. They do not fight for profit. They fight to protect what they love. The Zorath believe that fear drives behavior. Humans prove this is false. Humans are afraid, but they fight anyway. That makes them unpredictable and unbreakable. An interesting theory, said another council member, a Krillian named Zorn. But how does this change our military assessment? It means that military assessment alone is not enough, Thrall replied. The humans are also asking for something. They are asking for recognition as an equal species in galactic affairs. They are asking for official sovereignty over their colonies on Ardor Prime. They are not asking for military support. They are asking for respect. Keth stood up. Respect is earned through strength. The humans have not earned it. They are still weak. Are they? Thrall asked directly. They faced your attack force. They suffered losses. They continued fighting. By your definition of strength, they have already proven themselves. A weak species would have surrendered. A weak species would have asked for help. Humans did neither. The council chamber filled with argument. Some members agreed with Thrall. Some agreed with Keth. Some said humans should be destroyed before they became a real threat. Some said that if humans could stand against the Zorath, then perhaps humans deserved a place among the great powers. Finally, the vote came. The council voted to send an official delegation to Ardor Prime. They voted to negotiate with the humans instead of attacking them. The Zorath demands for increased military support were denied. Keth's face became almost black with rage. He stood up and threw his ceremonial staff to the ground. You are making a grave mistake. Humans are a disease. They must be eliminated. But his voice was alone now. The council had decided. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Humanity, the young species that the council had dismissed 3 months before, was now being invited to the negotiating table. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood with Captain Rogers as they received the official notice of the Council's decision. Her face showed no surprise. She had known somehow that this moment was coming. "The Zorath will not accept this," Rogers said. "No," Grant agreed. "But they will accept it because they must. The Council has spoken. Even the Zorath cannot fight the entire Council, and they know it." Rogers looked out at the red dust of Ardor Prime. In the distance, he could see humans working on the colony. Sophia was there, learning how to help rebuild. There were other children too, children who would now grow up on a world that humans had claimed and defended. "Thrall understood us," Rogers said quietly. "Most species see power in weapons and ships. Thrall saw the real power. He saw that we would not surrender. He saw that our children matter more to us than our lives." Grant put a hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy is learning what it means to underestimate humans. By the time they fully understand, there will be no stopping us." The official delegation arrived at Ardor Prime 1 week later. They came to negotiate. They came to understand. Most importantly, they came to offer humanity something it had never had before: recognition, respect, a place in the family of galactic civilizations. Thrall was part of the delegation. As he walked into the main colony meeting hall, he saw Rogers standing with Sophia beside him. The girl was no longer crying. She was strong, already learning to be human in the way that mattered. The negotiation would be long and complex. But the outcome was already decided. Humanity was no longer a species to ignore. Humanity was a species to respect. Humanity was a species that had marched to war against terrible odds and had not retreated. 3 days after the battle, Thrall asked to speak with Captain Rogers alone. The human agreed without hesitation. They met on an observation deck that overlooked the damaged colony. The stars shone above them, constant and cold. "Why did you send Marcus Hayes to his death?" Thrall asked directly. There was no point in being indirect. Thrall had learned that humans respected honesty. Rogers looked out at the stars. He did not answer right away. Marcus volunteered. When I explained what needed to be done, he did not hesitate. He said those children deserved a chance to grow up. He said a pilot's life was worth that price. But the Zorath could have destroyed the transport anyway. "You did not know it would work," Thrall said. "No, we did not know," Rogers agreed. "But Marcus chose to try. He chose to give us the best chance we had. That is what humans do when it matters." Thrall sat down. He had been an observer at the Council for 20 years. He had seen many species make decisions. He had never seen anything like what the humans did. "Your species thinks differently than others," Thrall said. It was not a question. Rogers turned to face him. "Tell me what you mean." "The Krillians fight for power. The Zorath fight for conquest. The Veeth fight to maintain balance. But humans fight to protect. You sent that pilot to his death, not because it served your military strategy perfectly, but because it protected children. That is not how the galaxy works." "Maybe not," Rogers said. "But it is how humans work." The next day, Thrall found himself in the Colony Medical Center. He had requested a meeting with Dr. Patricia Wells. She was checking on the wounded when he arrived. A small human girl was in the bed nearest to them. It was Sophia, the child whose parents had been killed. Sophia looked at Thrall with no fear. Her eyes were red from crying, but they were also curious. "Are you a blue person?" she asked. "I am Veeth, child." "You are Sophia, yes?" Thrall said. "My mommy and daddy are gone," Sophia said. It was not a question. She was stating a fact, the way humans did. Rogers walked in at that moment. He moved directly to Sophia's bed and sat beside her. He took her small hand in his. "I am here," Rogers said. "I promised you that you would be safe. I promised your parents that I would protect you. That is still true. Sophia leaned against his shoulder. She did not cry. She simply rested. Later, after Rogers had left to handle colony work, Thrall spoke with Dr. Wells. They stood in a quiet room away from the medical center. "Your captain loves that child," Thrall said. "Nathan loves all the children," Wells replied. "That is not unusual for humans. It is how we are made." "What do you mean?" Thrall asked. Wells sat down and gestured for Thrall to do the same. "On Earth, human children require years of care to survive. A human child cannot feed itself. It cannot defend itself. A human infant spends 9 months growing inside its mother's body. There is a deep connection created. That connection makes us willing to do anything to protect our young. It is biology. It is also culture. We have built our entire civilization around the idea that children and innocent beings must be protected at any cost." Thrall thought about this. The Krillians produced offspring in batches. The young were raised by machine in growth chambers. They did not know their parents. The Zorath were similar, though they used biology. A Zorath male would produce many offspring with different females. There was no deep bond. "So humans are weak creatures that need protection from harm," Thrall said. "No," Wells said firmly. "Humans are creatures that have learned through millions of years that we survive by protecting each other. A mother who would sacrifice her life for her child is not weak. A man who would run into fire to save a stranger is not weak. A species that values the life of its young above everything else is not weak." Wells leaned forward. "You have seen our weapons, Observer Thrall. You have seen our ships. You have seen that we are less advanced than the Zorath. But you have also seen us drive them away. Why?" Thrall did not answer because he was beginning to understand. "Because," Wells continued, "we fight with something the Zorath do not have. We fight with purpose. We fight with love. We fight because we know exactly what we are protecting and why it matters. When a Zorath soldier fights, he fights because his commander ordered him to. When a human fights, he fights because he has looked into the eyes of a child and made a promise." Thrall left the medical center with his thoughts in disarray. Everything he had believed about strength was wrong. The Council had judged humans by the wrong measures. They had counted ships and weapons. They had ignored the thing that actually mattered. The Zorath had returned to their space and were preparing another attack. The report said they would be back within a month with more ships and better strategies. The human colony had limited resources. They could not rebuild their defenses fast enough. By all logical measures, they would lose. But as Thrall walked through the colony and watched humans work, he saw something that could not be measured in weapons or ships. He saw determination that could not be broken. He saw purpose that would not fade. He saw people who understood exactly what they were fighting for and who would die rather than fail. That night, Thrall sent a message back to the Galactic Council. He told them what he had learned. He told them that the humans were not weak. He told them that humans fought in a way that other species did not understand. He told them that humans were the most dangerous and the most admirable beings he had ever encountered. And he told them that if the Zorath attacked again, the humans would fight again. And the humans would keep fighting until either the Zorath were destroyed or the last human was dead. There was no middle ground. There was no surrender. There was only victory or death. Thrall understood now why, long ago, humans had been feared as a species to avoid. It was not because they were strong in the traditional sense. It was because they were unbreakable. It was because they would not stop. It was because they loved something more than they loved themselves. 6 months had passed since the council delegation arrived at Otter Prime. The colony had been rebuilt stronger than before. The peace negotiations were nearly complete. Thrall found himself sitting in meetings with humans, Krillians, Zorath, Veeth, and representatives from a dozen other species. Each day brought new understanding. Today was special. Captain Nathan Rogers had agreed to speak to the full council about human history and human nature. The meeting chamber was filled beyond capacity. Even species that had not sent official delegates came to listen. The Zorath War Master Keth was not present. He had returned to the Zorath homeworld in shame, his fleet defeated and his recommendations rejected. Rogers stood in the center of the chamber. He was no longer wearing military uniform. He wore a formal suit, the kind humans used for important occasions. But his bearing was still that of a soldier. Strength and honor marked his every movement. Members of the council, Rogers began. You know me as a military commander, but I am also a human. I am a product of a species that was born on a world that was cruel and dangerous. Let me tell you what that means. He presented images on a screen. They showed Earth in all its terrible beauty. Oceans that could swallow cities. Mountains that touched the sky. Forests so dense and dangerous that a human could die within hours if unprepared. When humans evolved on Earth, we were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We were not the most powerful. We were prey. Other animals hunted us. The environment itself tried to kill us. For millions of years, we barely survived. But we survived for one reason. We worked together. A single human cannot hunt a large animal. A single human will freeze in winter. A single human cannot raise a child alone. But humans together can do anything. The council members watched the images with fascination. They saw early humans huddled around fires, learning to use tools. They saw mothers protecting children. They saw hunters working in coordinated teams to bring down animals much larger than themselves. Our biology shaped us, Rogers continued. A human child takes 9 months to develop inside its mother. That child is born helpless. It cannot see clearly. It cannot walk. It cannot feed itself. For years, human children require constant care. That means mothers, fathers, families, and entire communities must focus on protecting and teaching these young ones. He paused to let this sink in. This shaped our entire civilization. We built societies around protecting the young. We created cultures where sacrifice for others is the highest virtue. We made moral systems that teach us to protect the weak and innocent. This is not weakness. This is the foundation of our strength. Dr. Patricia Wells stood next and shared the human scientific perspective. She explained human biology, human emotions, human capacity for attachment and bonding. She showed how human brains were wired for cooperation, how human bodies produce chemicals that made them feel pain when others suffered and joy when others thrived. Humans are not calculated beings, Wells said. We do not make decisions purely through logic. We make decisions through emotion, through love, through the drive to protect. This makes us different from every other spacefaring species. It also makes us dangerous in a way that nothing else is dangerous. A species that will sacrifice everything for those it loves cannot be conquered through conventional means. Then, Ambassador Lisa Grant spoke about human history and human wars. She showed how humans had fought each other for thousands of years, how they had committed terrible acts against one another, but how they had also learned. She showed how humans had gradually expanded the circle of protection, learning to see all humans as worthy of moral consideration. The Zorath make a mistake if they think we are weak, Grant said. We are the species that looked at our young and decided they were worth dying for. We are the species that saw another human suffering and decided we had a responsibility to help. We are the species that chose compassion as a foundation, not as a luxury. The council members did not interrupt. They listened to everything. They asked questions during the breaks. Slowly, understanding grew. A Krillian council member asked a direct question. If humans value peace and protection of the innocent, how did you become able to defeat the Zarath military? Rogers answered, "We did not choose to be good at war. War chose us. When the Zarath attacked, we responded with all the strength we had. But we used that strength not to conquer, but to protect. Everything we did to save lives. Every weapon we built to defend our colony. Every sacrifice we made for those we loved." He walked to the center of the chamber. "You fear us. I can see it in your eyes. You are afraid of humans. You are wondering if we are a threat to the galactic order. You want to know if allowing humanity to grow stronger will create a new power that will attempt conquest." The chamber was completely silent. "Do not fear," Rogers said. "Humans do not seek conquest. We seek only to protect what is ours and to live in peace with others. But know this clearly. If you attack us, if you threaten our children, if you try to destroy what we have built, you will find that we are far more fearsome than you could imagine." The Zarath learned this lesson at great cost. Others should not have to learn it the same way. The final agreement was signed 1 week later. Humanity was officially recognized as a member species of the Galactic Council. They were given rights to colonize previously unclaimed worlds. They were granted representation in all major decisions. The Zarath agreed to a peace treaty that included compensation for the colonists they had killed and for the damage to Arter Prime. On the day the agreement was finalized, Threll walked with Rogers through the rebuilt colony. They passed the memorial to those who had died in the battle. More than 200 humans were listed. 200 people who had sacrificed everything. "Do you know what I finally understand?" Threll said. "When I first came here, I thought your renown as a fearsome species was something you earned through conquest and strength of arms. But it is not that. Your fearsome renown comes from the fact that you will never, ever stop fighting for those you love. You cannot be conquered because you have already decided you would rather die than abandon your people." Rogers looked at the memorial. Marcus died 3 meters from my position. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew it would kill him. But those children were in his cargo hold, and that was all that mattered. "That is what makes you fearsome," Thrall said. "Not your weapons, not your ships, your willingness to sacrifice everything." The Zarath did not understand this. Neither did the Council. But now they do. Rogers turned to face the Veeth diplomat. "Thrall, you saw us when we were desperate. You saw us when we were weak. You did not judge us the way your council judged us. You tried to understand. You told the truth, even when it was not popular. Humanity will not forget this." That evening, as Thrall prepared to return to his post on the council station, he stood alone on an observation platform. He looked out at the Arter Prime colony spreading across the red landscape. Lights were coming on as darkness fell. Humans were moving through the streets, going about their lives. Children played in parks built from salvaged materials. Families gathered in homes built by hands that had fought and bled. Thrall understood, finally, why the great powers of the galaxy had feared humanity. Not because humans were more advanced, not because humans were more numerous, but because humans had something the others had lost or never had. Humans had purpose. Real purpose. Deep purpose. The purpose of protecting those who could not protect themselves. When humans marched to war, they marched not to conquer or to gain power. They marched because children needed them to march. They marched because innocents needed them to stand and fight. They marched with the quiet determination of a species that had learned, through millions of years of struggling against a harsh world, that some things were worth dying for, and that, Thrall finally understood, was what made humans truly fearsome. Not their strength in battle, not their weapons or strategy, but the absolute certainty in their hearts that they would defend what mattered, no matter the cost, until victory was achieved or they drew their last breath. The galaxy would learn this lesson well. Some would learn it as friends of humanity. Others would learn it as the Zorth had learned it. But all would eventually come to the same understanding. Humans were no longer to be dismissed as primitive newcomers. Humans were a power that would shape the future of the galaxy. And when humans marched to war, all the great powers would finally understand their fearsome renown.